So, this is my extensive list of notes on the Petscop Kids. And I took a few pieces of information in regards to making this. First of all, since we already know who Rainer, Mike, Care, and Belle are, I didn't really bother putting them on this list. But for some of these more mysterious characters, in which some of which are probably not super important, but some of them might be, I wanted to make a bunch of notes on them to sort of find out what's going on, you know? Uh, and I sorted them into categories. So here's the thing. Not all the Petscop kids are probably kids. Some of them might be like adults of these kids, uh, who also thought it would just be cool to playtest this game for Mike. Some of them might be members of Garolina, if Garolina is a full company and not just Rainer doing stuff. And I wanted to make these notes based on their personality traits, as well as any recordings we may have of them, as well as their order of recording. And a few things I found out about this. You can read all of this if you want, but there are a few things I figured out about this. First of all, I think this character Robbie may actually be Mike's best friend. So this character Robbie, who was playtested in Generation 3, 4, and 5 of Petscop. Generation 5 is Mike's birthday. He gets to play in all these generations, and he gets to play before all the other people in alphabetical order. So, in that sense, I think Robbie may be one of Mike's best friends. Now, his description is reward, which is interesting, because that could be language in as such as, well, children are a reward, but it could also be a reward for finding a missing kid. Now, that's not a lot to go on because we don't get to see any of Robbie's recordings, but it's something to consider nonetheless. One thing I have noticed is that the people who played in Generation 3 tend to have more precious adjectives than those who played in Generations 4 and 5. So, for example, Robbie, as we discussed, is reward. Lucas is counselor, and that makes me think he may be an adult, but he could also be a kid. Amber is angel. Amber is angel. James is delicate. And Belle, of course, is one of the main characters. And comparing those to the people who did so in Generation 4, some of these are the Generation 3 kids again, but others are Daisy, Many. What the heck does that mean? I have no idea what that means. We have Megan, Shy. We have Ryan, Drummer. We have Nathan, Guest, and we have Phil, who's described as Nosy. Now, Phil's a little bit interesting. He has two auto recordings after him. Of course, they're both in the Generation 5, which would be a new update. However, his recording is him just kind of standing still in front of the Ronith puzzle. And he's described as nosy. Now, that could mean that something bad happened to him, but he does get to make a recording on Mike's birthday, so if anything bad did happen to him, he survived and was able to make it home. However, for Amber, we see Amber's second recording, interestingly enough, and Amber's second recording also features her being still. And she's described as Angel, right next to a character called Harper, and that makes me think of Heaven. Heaven makes me think of dead kids. And we see three graves out in the Newmaker plane. One, of course, would be Mike. Another would be Lena. But we never know who the third one is. It's possible that's Amber, although we don't have a lot to go off of in regards to that. So those are the three that I've decided are most likely to be victims of Marvin. The ones who are less likely to be victims of Marvin, I mostly just put on there because In regards to Lucas and James, they're close friends of Mike, and also we get to see some of James's recording footage. So if he is important to the story, we get to see some of his footage. And then we have April, and I only really put her there because she's described as Harper, and that was right next to the word angel, so whatever. Interestingly enough, one thing I figured out is that Care doesn't actually play on Mike's birthday. She got to play during Generation 3, but not Generation 5. Now, I did theorize that Care did get to play on Generation 5 in regards to the school that Marvin put in without Raynor's permission, which would create sort of an unofficial generation, is what I'd call that. So either that's a 3.5 to 7 day recording session, or it's 2 separate recording sessions. I've looked at some of these descriptions, and the only way we're going to figure out members of Garalina in regards to the list of character names on a list is what those sort of descriptions are. And of course, if we find out Garalina employee members, we may be able to figure out the boss. So I sort of organize these by who could be adults, who could be kids, and who could be either. And then on this side, I put Garalina employees, which would all be adults, and I put Marvin's victims, which probably don't all need to be kids. Let's go over these. So we have Kyle, who's a typist. That could refer to typing up a whole bunch of text or code, whatever, for the game. We have Toolmaker. That definitely sounds like a game design adjective. We have Counselor, which doesn't immediately seem like a game design description, but there is a counselor's room in Petscop 22. Of course, I do believe this is Raynor speaking because it's white, it's the white color, and also he's looking for graves, so, but it's something to consider. We have Rebecca, who is puppeteer. Now, if that's anything, that's a double meaning. Of course, kids can play with puppets, but if you have a feminine-sounding name and that person is referred to as a puppeteer, you may have a boss who's puppeteering certain characters. Thing to think about. We have Sally, who is Lister, which, again, could refer to typing up a whole bunch of text for a game. We have Theo, who is organized. Of course, that might just be referring to anyone who is organized at all. We have Tony, and of course, Tony, this was kind of the fourth wall break moment for it. Tony is the guy who made the Petscop series, like the real life guy who made Petscop. So he could be a member of Garalina in this point in the story. We have Charlie, who's listed as musician. Now, of course, this one I'm less certain about because it seems Raynor was the one who made the soundtrack for Petscop. So Charlie probably isn't a member of Garalina, but I figured I'd put it up there anyway. And we have Adam as a storyteller, of course, making a story for a game, whatever. There are some other descriptions I'd like to say, just for fun, I guess. We have a character named Jack who's listed as dog, and a character named Kate who's listed as goose. So, I mean, what that makes me think of is when you're playing Duck, Duck, Goose as a kid, but one of the kids kind of has an accent, so they say dog instead. So, dog, 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 goose. Daisy is listed as many. I have no idea what many means. What does many mean? We are legion, we are many. Whatever that means. Shelby is listed as neighbor, so I guess that means she lives nearby. I guess that's kind of interesting. Will was mentioned as pilot, which could refer to like an adult having a job as a pilot. but it could also just refer to like a kid pretending to be a pilot, so I didn't really know where to put him. We have some adjectives that sound definitely like they would be adults. We have cook, technician, sitter, as in babysitter, worker, toolmaker, and baker. Now, of course, some of these could just be referring to, well, the kids are pretending to be these things because of their imaginations or whatever, but eh. But yeah, those are, and these are kind of more of a summary of my notes if you wanna read them. Granted, I'm trying to figure out who Boss is, and I'm thinking it might be a character from the Tony Domenico extended universe rather than just like Petscop. But her name could appear in the credits. Uh, we never know.